Craig Aggie Show, screaming into the void.
Hey film fans, you're watching Screaming Into the Void, our bi-annual film podcast. Although, yeah, it's been a while, but we're back, and hopefully this will be a more a regular thing now. So I'm joined today by Bruce.
Hello.
And Harry.
Hello.
And I'm Craig. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about Predator. Now, it's quite an old film to be talking about, but the reason we're going to talk about it today is that there was a re-release recently, 30th anniversary of the classic sci-fi action horror film, obviously starring Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of his most iconic roles, directed by John McTiernan. So Predator tells the story of a special forces team on a rescue mission in South America, in the jungles of South America. One by one, they're picked off by an invisible alien hunter who's on the prowl.
With dreadlocks.
With dreadlocks, Rastafarian alien. And soon, Arnold is the only one left, and he has to take him on Mono, a alien.
Maybe you should have said at the start of that, there's spoilers.
Spoilers alert, if you've not seen Predator.
Just in case you haven't seen it in 30 years.
It's a bit like have you seen that film Lone Survivor? With Mark Wahlberg. The poster is like, Lone Survivor starring Mark Wahlberg.
And all these other people.
Exactly. And you think, wonder what's going to happen in this one. So, I'd obviously seen it before. It's a film I've loved since I was a teenager. Harry, you've seen it before, haven't you?
I saw it when I was younger.
Before this time. We all went to see it again for the 30th anniversary. But Bruce, this was your first time watching Predator. So, what did you think?
Very first time. And I hadn't really seen any spoilers at all.
So you had no clue what was going to happen?
No idea.
Yeah, that's good.
But then, I knew the only bit I knew.
Alien Predator film.
I've seen Alien vs Predator. The only bit I knew was about how he puts the mud on as camouflage.
Okay.
That's the one thing. So I kind of knew how it eventually end up. But the rest of it,
yeah. About the film, but
yeah, I know. Yeah, there's the one bit. I think I just saw a poster of him covered in mud or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So to be honest, I did actually really enjoy it. The only downside was Craig's awful seating decision.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
That could be another podcast entirely. Where's the best place to sit in the cinema?
After.
Could do. But yeah, unfortunately we was in the front row. So it was like IMAX experience. It was like right in the front row.
Maybe that added to it. Maybe that's
did.
why I enjoyed it.
Maybe it did.
I think I would have preferred the front row. I'd had more leg space. It was like one row back, so there was still sinking my way.
So Bruce, what was your favourite parts of the film? What struck you the most about why you think this film's a classic, or considered a classic?
There were some really good bits in it. I really enjoyed the whole scare factor that you didn't really know what the Predator looked like. It's the old classic, like when you reveal the villain, then it's not scary anymore. So they kept it going for a long amount of time. Exactly, don't show the monster. There were bits of it. I think I found it better as the film went on. I didn't really enjoy the beginning, and then after the cheesiness disappeared.
Was that because of how the spaceship landed on Earth?
No. The cheesy bits I found was number one, the mid-air arm wrestle with Arnie and
that's the coolest bit about it.
To me, I was like, oh dear, what's going on? I was like, this is yeah. Okay. Yes, when they meet, it's like, hello Dutch, and then they just start going for it.
Dylan!
In his best Arnie.
Excellent.
And then the fight scene as well. The first battle that didn't really feel like it was part of the film, but you told me it was directed differently, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, that does stick out like a sore thumb, that action scene at the beginning. It's very A-team, very 80s, and it was directed by the second unit. They didn't quite... John McTiernan, the director, had only made one low-budget film before Predator, and the producer didn't quite trust him to direct an action scene of that scale, so they hired someone else who was an expert who did all the action scenes at A-team, so it has got that kind of over-the-top, ridiculous feel of people flying through the sky in slow motion.
I thought that bit was really good though, because I thought it showed how much of an awesome expert team they are extracting people, showed how good they are. But
Not very subtle, though, were they?
No, they weren't. Oh, well, they were at first, weren't they? They sneaked around the camp. They all took out the men on the outsides of the post, and then they went in. But it showed how good they were, but there was no match to the Predator.
Okay. So you thought it was quite a good character building moment to show the team working together.
That they're all really good fighters.
Yeah, maybe. So
what was my favourite word? Battlers.
Yeah.
They were the best jungle battlers.
Jungle battlers.
Maybe how you think that that was a good way to show the team show how strong they were as warriors, then when they're getting picked off later on, we can see just how effective the Predator is as a villain against them. Yeah. Anything? So you kind of felt the cheesiness of the film.
Yeah, when Arnold threw the knife at a guy and it killed him, and he stuck to the wall. It was like, hang around or whatever.
Stick around.
Stick around. I was like, oh come on. But then after that, I decided, okay, let's try and watch it with the idea that this was created, you know, in the time that it was, and I enjoyed it more. Other than when they started to just lose less and less clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point,
traps.
they're all in like outfits, and then they just suddenly decide they need to be in vests.
It's very hot in the jungle, and they were lifting trees with their
And pulling trees
yeah,
down,
exactly,
like-
pulling trees out.
They needed all the flexibility they could
Exactly.
get. Like that, I feel all the motion here that is stopping me from reaching
Yeah.
as far as possible.
In the middle of British winter, I have to take my shirt off. I lift up a cup of tea. Like,
That's true, I suppose. So when you went to watch it again, Craig, as good as you thought it was?
yeah,
Did it
yeah, I
install
think
the
so.
little child memories, the little
I
mini
think it
Craig
did.
memories?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Harry, you've seen the film before, often, or just a couple of times, or
I think that was my second or third time I've seen it.
okay?
So I've seen it once or twice. Once I've seen the film, I don't really need to see it again because I know you like to see a film like 3 or 4 times to fully understand it.
Yeah.
Because you look at a film different to how I do. When I watch a film, I sort of can't watch it.
So you
again.
mean Craig looks at it analytically and you watch the Michael Bay bits?
I just watch it because I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Once the story's over, you know what's going to happen. You
Yeah.
find losers that
Yeah.
entertainment value.
But then I'd come back to it as I've done a few years later and watch it again.
When you kind of forgot maybe the main
Yeah.
bits. Yeah.
Exactly. But I love it. I absolutely love it because I love how Arnold Schwarzenegger acts. I love his sort of jokey. How people say that people hate his acting because they say he can't act. He said he's the worst. What do people say? They say he's like an actor that shouldn't be acting, but he does because it works so well. But I don't believe that.
He's got a unique screen presence.
Yeah.
And he's not the best technical actor. He's not the best like highly trained like a thespian.
But he makes the film.
But he's definitely got his own charisma and his own screen presence, and that's all people need for. But you couldn't imagine anyone else playing that kind of role, could you?
I think they've done well with him not being as talkative as what he's in his other films. It's like a sort of, he's the captain, but he keeps to himself. He keeps to himself, like, as in what he does. He's quite quiet about himself, and then when the Predator comes, he starts to get a bit more emotional and scared, and you see all of them in the team, they all start breaking down and crying, and the Predator not only physically harms them, but he mentally scars them and makes them scared of him. And I thought it was brilliant in the film.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Harry, because when I was going to go on my little spiel about why I love the
sorry.
film. No, I'm glad you mentioned it, that you picked up on the theme without us even discussing it. That's kind of the theme that I think one of the reasons why it works so well as a horror film, as an action film. I think the theme, and I think it touches on what you said, Bruce, about like that kind of over-the-top machismo at the beginning, where it is kind of, I do think...
Very macho.
Yeah, it's a macho movie, but I also think it works on the other level of it's almost destroying the macho.
Yeah.
It does take it away, doesn't it?
That's how
Exactly.
it mentally breaks them down.
Exactly,
And
you're right.
they're like, I don't know what I saw. Like,
There's always a bigger fish, as they say in
Yeah.
Star Wars. It's
Yeah.
it's real, isn't it? Like, you think these men who we see at the beginning, like you said, Harry,
Yeah.
that we see how effective they are as warriors, as soldiers, and we think that they're hard. I mean, look at like how big and strong they are, how muscle bound these guys are, and they're picked off fairly easily one by one. And you're right, they mentally break and they're facing their fears, facing death.
and also you've got the woman the whole way through is not attacked once because she's not armed. She's not seen as a warrior. He's not bothered if she's a woman or anything, but the Predator sees that as a challenge to himself, and that's what the Predators do. They get sent off to...
It's their very macho, militaristic side of them.
Yeah.
That is what undoes them.
Because they go for the biggest and best target, and that's why they left Arnie till last, because they saw his prowess in his fighting.
Yeah. And what I like about it, I think when you say about Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think it's probably one of his better performances. I think McTiernan gets a pretty good performance out of him because he doesn't get to talk too much. We buy him 100% as a leader of men, and by the end of the film, it's almost like a silent film with him. But
It's not a silly film, is
no,
it?
and I think we get to see a little bit of his fear factor. I mean, how often do we see Arnold Schwarzenegger getting beaten at
what
by
he
the villain
does.
and running and scampering away and whimpering like he does at the end of that one. I think it's quite
Even right
subversive.
before he kills him and he thinks he's lost again.
Exactly. We very rarely see Schwarzenegger on the end of that kind of thing, which I quite like about it.
I do agree. Yeah.
And I think that whole, like I said at the beginning, Bruce, when you said about like that, like say the arm wrestling scene or the scene that McTiernan, the director, talks about is the scene with the big minigun and they blow down and they basically just completely
And they
obliterate
don't
the
hit him
whole
at all.
jungle scene because he said I wanted to almost mock the action movie. This is what people expect. This action, this big, almost comic book style, over the top, muscle bound like action movie film, and I wanted to mock it and tear it down. And just another to go through some of the themes that I've always enjoyed about the film is that something we'll notice in the first time I watched when I watched it this time, and something I noticed the first time was Schwarzenegger learns from the Predator.
Yeah.
He learned.
That's
he
what you said
uses
after we
the
watched it, didn't
technique
you?
of the Predator, doesn't he? Like he hides, like you said about the mud, Bruce, that he
Yeah.
learns how to be invisible like the Predator and use his
Well, that's
mind rather than his muscles.
Well, that's the thing. He thinks he's dead. He's sitting there. He's laying against a bank because he doesn't realise he's crawled through and trawled through loads of mud to cover himself. He's waiting for him to kill him, and he's like, "You can't see me." He's like, "You can't see me." And he starts building all these traps and just starts tearing him apart at his own game.
I mean, I don't know. Like I've talked about the Vietnam metaphors. Have you seen any of that, guys?
Yeah.
Like Bruce, what do you think of any of that?
Guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, it's just like the Americans in a jungle fighting for a cause they don't quite understand. They've been lied to for political reasons, and they're technologically overpowering, but they're undone by an unseen enemy in the jungle.
And that's the
using
thing.
guerrilla tactics,
And that's the thing about this film. It relates back to a true life situation that's
Mhm.
happened, and people don't see it because obviously it's a film. But if you break it down into what it actually is, it's exactly what happened in Vietnam.
Which is why I like films watching again. The best films you can see over and over again because there's different levels to them. There's different levels. You can watch it as an action film or you can watch it on other levels. And what do you think, Bruce? Did you find that the film's got a lot of depth, or did you kind of just see it as a fun action movie?
There was the fun action side to it, wasn't there? But I think it got more serious as it went on.
Mhm.
And I feel like the director was given a little bit more time and space to be able to create what he wanted to create instead of just kind of, like with the action scenes at the beginning when he was like, had to do what he had to do. So,
McTiernan went on after that to do Die Hard. So he went on to be like the A-list action director. He kind of fell away a few years later and hasn't really done much. Other reasons for that as well. But he
Did you do the first one?
first Die Hard movie.
Everyone's favourite.
you said
he's got-
everyone's favourite.
Everybody's.
Well, that and the third one with Samuel Jackson.
He also directed that as well.
There we go.
There you go.
My favourite ones.
Yeah. And he's famous for his a very visual style. His approach is, like I said, primarily towards the visual.
The only thing I didn't like was the laugh at the end by the Predator.
Oh yeah, you did say that, didn't you?
Yeah, I just felt that was completely out of character.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the Predator decides to 1v1 Arnie, and then as a form of respect, and then he loses, and then laughs because he's going to blow him up. I just feel like that was a bit silly.
Okay.
I feel like he accepted that he got defeated and was going to prime his bomb like he does and just, kill himself. And
You
that's
felt-
it. I felt like he didn't have to mimic the laugh or whatever, or the jokey laugh.
You think it would have been better if he hadn't laughed at all?
Hadn't
just
laughed at all.
accepted his fate and.
Accepted that he got beaten and he wasn't going to take Arnie with him on, like maliciously or on purpose or tauntingly. He was just, if it was going to happen, it was going to happen.
And that's, you touched kind of on an interesting thing there, Bruce, as well, about one of the aspects of the Predator character is he does kind of have a bit more of a human agenda. You can, like I said, you can't do it with the alien characters. They are just aliens, monsters.
They're monsters, whereas they're more humanified.
I mean, they've got their own
Yes.
race, haven't they? That's the whole point. Predators are their own
Yeah.
people, and they have their own society and stuff.
They're a dominant species, warrior species. That
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't feel like it felt out of character to then suddenly laugh and taunt him at the end. For me, anyway, I feel like you've gone through this whole really good battle with it.
serious and
Serious fight and respectful fight, and the Predator doesn't fall for the trap that Arnie set, so it's like plays and counter plays, and I thought that was really good. And then for him to then just laugh at the end, I was like, I don't feel you. Once again, it kind of just went to me back to the beginning being cheesy.
well,
I feel like that bit just slightly ruined the end for me.
okay. So that one didn't work. But what about when he used it when him and the two guys were hunting him down?
That's fine. because it's part of the trap. But that was all right. But what I mean is he got beaten by it. He was using it as a lure, wasn't he? So that's fine. That's within like his arsenal and his kit
But he didn't even.
of hunting.
But that's the thing though. You thought it was him because he recorded that, didn't you? But then it wasn't actually the Predator using.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, at the very end though, when Arnie defeats him, I don't feel like the laugh was necessary.
Okay.
Okay, but overall, people enjoyed. Obviously,
Yeah, I mean,
love it.
was there any other dislikes you thought about the film?
No, that was it. I feel like it's on to Alien now for me. That's the
Yeah,
next,
I
that's the
think
next
we
one I
should.
haven't seen,
Yeah,
so I feel like I
said
need
that
to.
before, maybe that'll be the next one. Because you've not seen Alien, have you?
I've seen bits of it, but I haven't watched them.
I think it's a very different film than The Predator, but yeah,
No one can hear you scream in space.
exactly. Interesting. So yeah, overall, like Predator. So that's Predator. Because we're watching an old film, and like you kind of touched on this subject as well, Bruce. We're going to have a little chat about watching older films. Because for me, I'm a bit of an older generation than Harry and Bruce. So for me, Predator feels like a more of a modern movie for me, and I'm a bit more forgiving of some of the more dated aspects. But other people watch a new film like that, an older film like that, and they spot as like you said, Bruce, like stuff that struck you as cheesy and a bit dated. So I suppose I'm going to just go around the room and say, like, just talk about. Do you think that matters when you watch an old film? Can you watch an old film without being constantly taken out of it by dated fashions or dated music or dated special effects and things like that? Or can you still enjoy a film, or do you have to see it as a product of its time, or do you judge it by modern standards?
I think when you go to watch an older film, you have to mentally accept the idea that it was created like 20, 30, 40 years ago. I feel like you have to appreciate that there will be some, odd music, some odd themes used or songs used, or actors act in a particular way when someone gets shot, and they do over exaggerate that they've been shot.
Yeah.
Because that's I feel like if you go thinking it's going to be like an Avengers film or a modern day film or whatever, expecting the type of fighting and things, it's not going to be that, and you're going to ruin it for yourself.
What do you reckon, Harry, when you watch older films?
I mean, because we went to the cinema to watch an older film, you're sort of thinking, because it's on a massive screen, you're like, oh, the graphics aren't that bad. Like, not as good as what you think it was, but then you've got to realise you're watching that old film at the movie, not a new one, whereas if you were at home, it'd be completely different. And
You might be more forgiving at home?
Yeah, you wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't think about it because you know it's an old film, you know you're just watching it, and you just have to regard it as that was how it was in that time. They were the best sort of graphics you were going to get. I mean, it come out after Star Wars, but Star Wars graphics were actually better than what was in that, like within the space battles and things like that. And when you see the plane coming in, that's the only bit I don't like is when the spaceship comes in at the start of the film and you look at it and you have to laugh at it.
Yeah.
But other than that, throughout the film, fine.
To be fair though, I appreciated watching it in the cinema more, I think, than if I was on the TV.
Yeah, so you're different, you find it.
I find the other way around. I think because we went to the cinema and we went to go and watch it, I was like, I'm making time to go and appreciate this movie. So because I wasn't just sitting on my sofa putting it on the TV and laughing at it, I thought I'm actually invested to go and watch time at the cinema. So maybe that's why I maybe enjoyed it a little
Maybe
bit
it's
more.
because your first time as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Whereas
So
I've seen it before, so
yeah.
I knew we've seen it before, so we knew what was going to say. Okay.
Have
What about you?
Well, I was going to say to you guys, obviously talking about dated effects and like music and fashions and things, but how about this idea now of things that aren't politically correct anymore? Like, have you ever watched a film and there's been jokes? I mean, there's a lot of films nowadays that even films that are not from that long ago, and you watch jokes now and you wince. What do you think about that? Do we have to be more forgiving?
Shouldn't really said that.
Should we be aware of it when we're watching it, or should we just forgive it for as it is the time that it was made? And
There's things
different
that
attitude?
like Fawlty Towers and things all
Yeah,
the time,
exactly.
isn't there?
You
Like
think-
there's episodes and things where they don't show anymore, isn't there? And
But
they-
then I think a lot of people now have got chips in their shoulders about certain things. I mean, people take it too seriously for what it was. As it was, if you're watching a comedy film and something happens, take it as a joke. It shouldn't be taken seriously. I mean, there's some things there's certain boundaries you shouldn't go past, and there's some films where they do it in that way because that was the era, and they're trying to show you what it was like back then, like as in a current film. But with a film,
So like Django Unchained, where they use
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
when they use that ridiculous amount of times, but then that's a Is that Quentin Tarantino film?
Yeah.
It's going to be like that. It's overdone to show you what.
There's an
What the
intent,
problems
isn't there?
are.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to use unpleasant, like violent scenes or stuff, or unpleasant to highlight. If you're making a film about a racist character and they're supposed to be racist and we're supposed to see them as racist, then they'll use racist language. But I'm thinking of an example of 40-Year-Old Virgin. It came about 10 years ago, not that old in my mind, but there's a scene with Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, and they're using homophobic jokes against each other. Going, you're gay, that kind of stuff. Nowadays,
Oh yeah, when they're playing,
nowadays you probably wouldn't see that in a
when
movie.
they're playing the
video games.
haven't they?
That probably wouldn't be seen now. It probably wouldn't be seen as okay. And then part of me thinks, well, yeah, you don't want to be doing that in a Bond movie. I don't know. So
I think you have to. It depends on the language and things used for what. Like Django Unchained, they've set it in that time period. Where if it's just going to be set in a modern day, I don't feel like you need to.
what if it's an older film and
It's just how it was.
there is racist jokes in it and we're supposed to laugh at it in the context of the film?
Because
Do you think that
back
film is now
because
gone,
back
or-
then it was highly racist still, and there was a lot of people that were still racist or homophobic, things like that, and they're like abusing people for it.
Jokes like Beverly Hills Cop. I love the film, but there's a joke where Eddie Murphy pretends to be a gay guy and he's very effeminately gay.
Is that when he's in the? Is that
In the
free?
restaurant scene? No, in the first film he's in the restaurant scene. But even the character of Serge, isn't it?
Yeah, he's
Played
very
by
over.
a straight actor playing a gay character
Yeah.
over the top. Yeah, and he's meant to be the butt of the jokes, isn't he? Because he's like flamboyantly gay. So things change, doesn't it? I mean, do you think even nowadays films will date quite quickly because of special effects and changing attitudes?
That's true.
There's
Just
a theory
like
I've heard.
recently about it shows that even special effects now can be mucked up because of
Or
the
things like Justice
Superman
League or
film.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite bad.
I haven't seen it, but apparently that's terrible.
And there's I saw someone saying once that you'll probably see a rise more in period films being made because you can't date. If you made a film set in historical times, then it's not dated anymore.
No.
So you don't have to worry about having massive breeze block, like mobile phones fashions changing, or it's like nowadays you see so many comedy films nowadays where they start talking about, hey, I just send out a Twitter or I send out a Facebook, and that kind of stuff like that. And you think, give it 5 years and we'll be rolling our eyes at that, won't we? So I don't know. But if you did a period film where that stuff isn't going to be on the table, then you're kind of protected from being dated. So. So I think we're all kind of in agreement. You have to kind of look at films
At the time that they're
at
made.
the time they're made. And you think, Bruce, in terms you have to be a bit more forgiving of older films.
Yeah, you have to accept it for what it was, I think. But you were talking interestingly, Craig, a couple of days ago about the idea that directors go back, don't they, sometimes, and try to change their films.
You know, like George Lucas, for a famous example, went back and added, changed the special effects in Star Wars movies, in the original series, in the original trilogy. He thinks it's a good thing. He said, I want to improve the special effects for modern audiences. But when you watch them now, that's the most hated part of the films. Spielberg tried it with E.T. and said that he regretted doing it and wished he'd never done it, where he tried to replace the character of E.T. with a computer-generated effect. And he said, no, it looked terrible. And when the Blu-ray was released, that version was gone. And I think, like I said, you have to kind of look at films as they're made the best that they can at that time. So you can't constantly be going back and remaking movies just for the special effects. Obviously people do make remakes, and if you've got a new idea and you want to completely reinvigorate it for a modern audience, that's fine. But I think sometimes you just have to leave alone and say, well, the special effects or the fashions are what they are. It was a product of its time. And
Just leave it
to
as
look
it
at
is. Because sometimes it as you said, makes it worse than what it already was.
Yeah.
Should films, let's say, were a product of their time, so say like It, or Blade Runner, should they be remade for, say, so a lot of people would never, also even Predator, a lot of people may never go and watch Predator, so should they just remake the original Predator but as a new film?
It's kind of what Predators was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a loose remake of it.
Or do you do like Blade Runner did,
Make a sequel.
and make a sequel that isn't just a pretend sequel, where it's the first, like Star Wars The Force Awakens,
A rehash.
which is just A New Hope,
Mm-hmm.
in a kind of nutshell.
Do you take
know.
the storyline into
Well, it's
a new
this
direction?
Phantom Menace
Yeah.
New Hope.
Do you know what I mean?
and
Do you just
Force
do that
Awakens.
so it hits then a new audience and you're trying to recreate the film so
Yeah.
people have the chance to watch it? Or do you do like Blade Runner did and you're like, okay, we're going to make a sequel?
Yeah, I think.
Or do you just leave it? But then,
But one of my favourite films is The Fly, from David Cronenberg in the 1980s, and that was a remake of another film. But it was totally the storyline. It basically took the title and the concept and then completely told a new story for new fears. The original film was set in the 50s, was made in the 50s, where it's all kind of this fear of new technologies
Cold
and
War
scientists, Cold War stuff,
things
a
like
bit like. Whereas 80s, like, I'm working on something now where The Fly is the greatest AIDS movie. It's about the fear of AIDS, and that's what it's about. That's the metaphor of that one. So it's a different film entirely. So and It is the original It, the TV movie, isn't that good. So I think if you want to remake a movie because the original wasn't that good, it's fine. But when you've got something like as beloved like Blade Runner, I think you're probably better off doing a sequel if you're gonna do anything. Often some films are better without sequels, but then Blade Runner, I would have said the same thing. I would have said that would be better out without a sequel. But then we got the sequel that we got, and it was brilliant. So
not the sequel we deserved, but the sequel we needed.
maybe. I like that. That's a nice profound thought to probably end the show with, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been Screaming Into the Void. If you like what you hear and see, press the like button. If you want to hear more, press subscribe. If you disagree with us, if you've seen Predator and you think that you didn't agree with our thoughts of it, or have any other different thoughts, and
Complete different idea to
Comments?
it, or way it should have been done.
any other comments about films that are dated? Can you enjoy a film that's dated? Should we laugh at older films? There's a kind of whole subset of cult films now where we laugh at older dated films, but so
I mean, if you've got anything we can bring up in the topic,
any
talk about,
questions?
you want us to talk about, then go ahead.
So I've been Craig.
It's been Bruce.
I've been Harry.
Thanks very much, film fans.
Boo boo.